Turn these all down.
We're meeting at 6:30. See my email on Friday?
No, my text, like the text about the meeting being canceled, I
Yeah.
never got it. And I happened to come up to drop something off and Joanne was like, yeah, there's no meeting. I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen text for a couple of days.
Huh.
Did you text or email about it?
So I emailed about it.
Yeah, I got the email.
Yeah.
Just a reminder.
I see one from 11:30, but I don't check these emails diligently. So that's my fault. But it's fine. I don't- There's no way.
Yeah, so did you get this text? This is from the meeting last week.
Is that? No, I forgot that one. But I had received.
Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason you're not on. Doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
There's a chain with everyone but you.
That's easier for me than thinking I didn't get.
Okay, sorry about that. This is so funny.
In the beginning, it wasn't.
Yeah. You know, there is. So. I don't.
You can always remove this. Good evening, everyone. So we're gonna get started. So welcome. So this is the second community listening session for our Resilient Dirt Roads project. It's a joint project with the towns of Chester and Middlefield. It's through a state grant for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. So it's really centered on preparing our town for the kind of severe weather events that we've actually seen pretty recently and that we're expecting to see a lot more of. And in particular, of course, we're looking at our dirt roads, our gravel roads, our roads that don't have the same level of protection as other roads in town. So again, this is a joint project with a couple other towns, and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is helping us out with it. This is Erica Larner. She's kind of our main point of contact with them, and she's going to be walking you through a few slides. And then we're going to jump into the meat of the meeting and actually just talk about, you know, what dirt roads you're concerned about, what areas you want to prioritize, and we'll get into it from there. So Erica, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, fantastic. Thanks very much, Chris. As Chris said, I'm Erica Larner. I'm a senior environmental planner with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. And we are helping to facilitate a project called Evaluating and Planning for Resilient Dirt Roads in Blandford, Chester, and Middlefield. Before we get into, say, the larger description of what this grant program is, something that's come up before is what is resiliency? We hear the word a lot, but what it actually means has kind of lost a little bit of its actual definition. So resiliency is the ability of a system to both withstand and rebound from an extreme event. So if you were to have a severe windstorm with lots of rain and trees were coming down, it's how well could Blandford withstand and not suffer damage that reduces its services to the public. And if it does suffer damages that reduces its services to the public, how quickly and well can it rebound from that event? So that's what we're really talking about with the dirt roads is how can we make sure that they can withstand extreme events and easily be fixed if there is a problem. Come on, friends. Please, everyone, if you get hungry while I'm talking and we're all talking, jump into the snacks and drinks. They are here for a reason. All right, so this grant has been provided by the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program through the Mass Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, about $317,000. And previously on this program, the match requirements, what towns had to come up with was 25%, which in a lot of grant programs is actually a pretty low amount as it is. But based on a lot of the feedback that rural towns tend to get a lot less funding and really are having a difficult time sustaining their roadways and other programs, this program has reduced the match requirement to just 10%. So they provide 90%, town in 10%. And that match can be both cash and in-kind, meaning people who volunteer, staff time spent on projects, things like that are all in-kind services that can count to that. So this is a 2-year project. Year 1 will actually be ending this June. And this year we are doing an analysis of the dirt roads in Blandford and Middlefield, particularly having engineers looking to get field work and internships coming out and evaluating with supervising engineers for the structures of the roadway and analyzing the beaver activity in Chester. In year 2, which will end in June 30th, 2024, there'll be an analysis of the dirt roads in Chester, and then Blandford and Middlefield will get to have their beaver activity exam. And in reality, the field work is all going to be happening between now until the beginning of fall. It's just fiscal year splits it June 30th to July 1. So we have a variety of project partners, and we want to make sure we mention and thank specifically the towns as they are the leading figures in this project, Blandford, Chester, and Middlefield. And each town has a community liaison. Here in Blandford, you have Paula Bilodeau, and I have to say she's been wonderful at getting the word out, encouraging people to come, and helping me coordinate a town that I haven't been to before. And it's really quite lovely here. Chester has Meredith Babcock, and Middlefield has Ken Murray, in case you know anybody who lives in those towns, and they'd like to comment on the project as well. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, where I am from, Mass EOEAA, was initials kill me every time. Fussin O'Neill is the engineering company. They're analyzing the beaver activity and providing technical memorandums for that. And then Hitchcock, sorry, Fuss and O'Neill. So FUSS O'Neill. Yep, right at the bottom. And then we are also working with the Hitchcock Center for the Environment for outreach programs like teaching elementary grade students and high school students. So why are we focusing on dirt roads? So the network of dirt roads in rural towns are critical to your public safety, emergency evacuation, and as routes to schools and jobs and regular daily life. They are also an important part of the rural character, from the beautiful aesthetics and scenery to their speed reduction and to the realities of the cost of paving and maintaining those projects. Additionally, there are some concerns about impacts to local waterways with washout of road materials and high quality cold water streams and rivers, So while you may not get something like, an asphalt with a lot of, runoff without any kind of infiltration, on gravel and dirt roads, you'll see that the runoff from the roads can pick up sediment and end up in the streams. So there's always a cost one way or another. The other thing is that maintenance of roadways in general, and in particular, the dirt roads represent a large percentage of municipal expenditures based on the care that's needed for the roadway surfaces. And climate change trends are making it all the more difficult to not only stabilize, but maintain and have resiliency post extreme events. So these climate change projections that I'm sharing are specific to the Westfield watershed. So they are specific to your town area. They're not Boston, they're not nationwide, worldwide. We get it from resilientma.mass.gov. It's a really intense, fabulous data site in which you can look at all the past and present, precipitation data, weather data, and really evaluate it down to the watershed area and not just like statewide. So some of the things that I think people are actually starting to notice is that our annual average temperature is increasing. In 1970, it was 44.5 degrees. And currently, we've already seen an increase of 2 degrees in this watershed. And by the 2090s, so that's 50 years ago, we've seen an increase in 2 degrees. In the next 50, we're expecting to see an increase of approximately 5 degrees Fahrenheit, an additional 5 degrees. In annual days over 90, in 1970, you might have seen about 2 a year. Currently, you guys are experiencing about 70 a year. So there's already been a 5-day increase. And they're projecting in the next 50 years to see an 18.5-day increase to nearly 26 days a year over 90 degrees. So I feel like these are the things that we really do see and can actually feel impacting us. Some of the things that kind of sneak in and you don't notice so much are things like annual days below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We had 172 of them in 1970. Currently, there's 154 approximately. So you've already lost just over 18 days a year below freezing. In the next 50 years, there's an expectation to lose an additional 109 days, so that you'd only be experiencing 45 days a year below freezing. You can imagine how that might change with seasons. And annual total precipitation. So one of the things is that in this particular area, because you guys have a great set of 4 stations, you may find that some of these particular total precipitation data or extreme heavy rainfall events can be muted. It's one of the beautiful benefits of living in a very naturalized area. You can see, the impacts and goals of conservation working here. But still, 50 years ago, you were getting 2.5 inches less rain a year, and there's a projection of an additional 4 inches in the next 50 years. So when we look at our climate change data, and as you can see, I made sure I put little tildes to say approximate, because they take these data points and they track them. And the predictions cannot be perfect because, cycles happen. So you can see they widen as we get further out, but you can definitely see that 32 degrees, the days you experience are going down and the precipitation is going up. And that data goes back to, in some cases, back to the plantings. So what does this mean for our dirt roads? Warmer winters, hotter summers, and more precipitation mean you'll have fewer days below freezing, longer mud seasons. You'll get a freeze-thaw cycle that will not only cause damage to dirt roads, but also damage asphalt. So people with paved roads are looking at these concerns as well. And increased precipitation means that there's going to be more stormwater with increased erosion and localized flooding. So these are the big concerns we're looking at to build capacity into your dirt roads. The major project outcomes that we will be producing will be a community engagement in education. Community engagement happening right now. Also, at these points in times, we're giving some education, other opportunities to give us feedback and answer questions that you might have. We're also doing some education with youths. We're doing a 3rd grade elementary class, already did a project where the Hitchcock Center for the Environment came in and they built beaver dams. And they looked to see if they could build on the engineering structure that beavers do. And unshockingly, they rarely can. So, you know, we all know how they function. And then in the fall, there'll be high school students actually coming out to the culverts in Blandford, Middlefield, and Chester, and looking and examining culverts and learning how to evaluate whether or not they're large enough for waterway crossings, for wildlife crossing, all of that. So we'll also be producing an online mapping and dirt road ranking tool, so you folks can look online and see where those dirt roads are, what their status is, and their ranking for needs and prioritization for fixing, you know. Actually, we have a lovely gentleman who works in Sandusfield, who brought an excellent example of a scoring matrix that we would use. Things like maintenance costs, community access, impact on health and safety, impacts on local economy, and whether or not those are risks and the condition go together to rate which projects should be protected and prioritized first. We'll be also producing a library of 5 to 7 nature-based designs to deal with a variety of concerns you might have on dirt roads. Concept designs for 2 priority culverts in each town. So that means we'll pick up culvert, be like, yeah, this one needs a little bit of work. And you'll have concept designs to go for the next round of grant funding to actually design, implement, and have in place. And then we're also going to produce some regulatory recommendations to reduce any of your future concerns. Are there things that you can plan for now that will help relieve things that might happen in the future? So before we get to the meat, where I want to hear all of your frustrations, complaints, and genius ideas, does any of this actually start any questions in you about the project? Before we move on to you telling me all about your town, is there anything you want to make sure you ask me? Yes.
Can we get a feeling of which dirt roads are represented tonight here?
As in who's here? Which
Who's here for which roads? We have 12 or 13 roads in town. I just want to get a feeling of how much interest there is.
If other people are comfortable, I feel like that's a good sharing exercise. Yeah, great, as long as that works for you guys, because it's really led by you. Yes, so which road are you on?
I'm on Blair Road.
Blair Road. All right, and and I'm gonna start writing some of these down so that I know to go back. All right, so Blair Road, who else is up here for a different road?
Julius Hall Road.
Julius
Hall.
Hall. All right,
H-A-L-L.
Hall, thank you. All right, I would have eventually been like, who do I email to find out?
Hewland Road.
Okay, how do I spell this? B-E-U.
L-A-H.
L-A-H.
And then land.
Land. Excellent. Excuse my terrible handwriting, folks.
The next one over, Sanderson Brook.
Sanderson Brook. And this. All right, anyone else?
Huntington Road
Huntington?
and State Road.
And what was the second one you gave me?
State Road, H-A-I-G-H-T.
H-A-I-G-H-T?
Right.
Okay, perfect. All right, anyone else for a different road? Yes.
Still Nybrook Road and Schoolhouse Hill.
Nybrook, perfect. And Schoolhouse?
Yep.
Right. Anyone else on a dirt road that's different? Eight out of the approximately
30.
12 are represented. That's not bad representation. Happy to see that. All right, anything else? Yes.
The list of the roads, I mean.
In a alphabetical list at this exact moment in front of me, no, it exists, yes, on our hard drives, and the map actually does map them out. So we do actually have them mapped, although if for some reason, when you look at it and you see this is highlighted and it's not a dirt road, or you see a road that you know was missed, please mark it. It's part of why we come out to talk to you guys, because GIS can only tell us so much. Records can only
have a lot more, so I'm surprised by that number.
Yeah, yes.
Do you have anything about forest fires and keep roads open for, an ability to get fire equipment into?
I think I have actually heard, it was just in Middlefield, yes, we heard a similar idea that if there was a forest fire and this particular road one, there was no way to put this out. There was large areas. So I think that making sure we evaluate access to potential forest fire sites, those large forested areas, yeah. Access for fire control is a major focus. Okay, fire control. And is there a road you're thinking of in particular in Blandford that you think that would, yes, which one?
Well, there's, the Huckleberry trolley line that goes from Blandford down into Huntington. It's drivable for some of the way. And there's, Huntington Road itself goes from Blandford to Huntington. It only goes a little ways and then, the culverts are gone and really washed. I don't even ride the horses down there, it's so bad. And then there's a road from Huntington Road down to, Paula's house on Nybrook Road that I think that for a fire road is pretty important, but, it's closed off with these cement barriers. And there's a bridge that's out on it.
There's also Jethro Jones Road.
So I heard a different road. Hold that in your head because I want to ask a question before I lose it. The bridge that's out, is it, excuse me, is that a town-owned bridge versus DOT?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it's something that, like, for instance, making sure that we give you some grant programs and some availability for that particular solution might be a good idea. And if it was Mass DOT, not that they don't do a variety of vital things, but if they're not a larger city, you definitely can get pushed to that. So, yeah. All right, so what was the other one that I missed? The other road? Jethro Jones? Okay.
And if you're gonna add to that, you might as well add Sanderson Brook down to the park,
Right.
Okay, so I have Sanderson Brook, but what was the part I missed?
down to the park.
Down to the park?
Yes.
To the park, down.
To the, forest and that, big forest.
And Muirland Road is the entrance into that as well.
And Buell Land Road comes into Sanderson Brook.
I'm like, look at this thing. All right, so this Viewland Road goes into Sanderson Brook,
Yes,
and then that goes down to the park.
and these are all old roads.
Sanderson Brook goes all the way down to the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a long way to go then.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, so let's see, before we get into full-on complaining section. Anything else I can answer you, and of course, anything that comes up, you can always ask me, but I want to make sure that I've addressed concerns before we get to the, yes.
One of the things, and I mentioned this last time, was Schoolhouse Hill Road is where our power lines come down. It is an unmaintained road that is closed during the winter. It's in horrific shape and, Northeast Utilities or Eversource rather has, it's a horrific time trying to get down there. And the power lines also follow another closed road. What was the name of that road that's no longer existent?
State road.
Haight Road that goes up behind the old Toddell's house.
Yeah.
And that's another road that the power lines, so we have two issues with power lines. Haight Road's been closed for years and years.
It's not road, it's the old second division road.
Oh, is
And
it
what
the,
was called?
is
Yeah,
it the
second
old
division.
second division road? You know
Haight
what?
Road,
I think you're right, Katie,
Haight
because we
Road goes
studied that.
from the corner of Huntington to the end of Haight Road. And then what was the old second division road is the.
Second division, not addition.
But probably 4 of those roads mentioned are not maintained, like,
No.
Huntington Road down, and,
Yeah.
you know, so they're not maintained because to discontinue them, it's complicated.
Yeah, Yeah.
There's also, if we're gonna throw everything into the mix.
yes, bring it, that's what I'm here for.
Standard Road.
I was gonna say, this way, other standard.
Now, that goes into Otis.
standard,
About the bridge.
like as in.
People have.
It's left of us.
So standard road that goes into Otis.
Standard.
So standard, okay.
Erica, do you want me to write? Because I know most of it.
You don't want to put your, thank you so much. So, and that goes into Otis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I imagine there's a section of that that would be.
There's two washed out
navigable, and a section that's not.
Yeah, there's two washed out culverts.
I'm happy to do it.
You can barely hear. Otis Town Road.
I actually, that was a very specific detail I very much want to hear. What was that again?
There's two washed out culvert pipes
Two washed out culvert
that you
pipes?
can barely get over with ATVs. Take your life from here. I'm on the cemetery commission with TJ. I go back and work on the cemetery. It's take your life in your hands.
Would you mark where those are for me? That would make, thank you so much.
Use a post-it or-
Oh, you can use a Post-it, you can use a sticky note, you can write right on the map. You just bring all the supplies to see what you feel like what
No.
stimulates your
You
creativity.
also now have, Hiram Blair Road.
Yes.
And we also have Shepherd Road. The paved area that goes down to Tibby Road.
Correct.
And what's the other one, Shepherd Road?
Oh, yeah,
Right,
Shepherd
and
Road.
So, okay, so are any of those? I know, but we need more people, thinker. So I'm wondering, a lot of these that we're hearing are, in particular, ones that you can think of are especially important and vital. And since we do have a map and list of them, any that you mentioned that we really want to make sure we know that there's a problem, like when I heard about is it the standard road and washout culverts, like there's a specific problem that we can highlight right there. Any of those roads jump out to you, because we're gonna have people looking at everyone, but if there's one to focus on.
One of the primary concerns living up here is fire hazard.
Yeah.
All right, now, we can only have certain size fire trucks because the roads are so narrow, driveways are narrow and that. But, if we were ever to have a forest fire up here, it would be like California, because the accessibility to get into the state forest and other areas in this town and other towns, we can't afford to keep them up. You know, and
Some of them get gated. So you can't get in. Some of them are gated.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you can't get in.
Yep, and it's becoming an increasing risk where, like, if I had done something 20 years ago that you could say, that doesn't happen that often, but there's been multiple forest fires in the last year in Massachusetts alone, so, yeah.
Now, those gated roads, the Springfield water is gated. The agreement with them was they had to keep up their section of the road, so they had to make a path.
Yeah, they're working
As
on
long as
it
they're
right now.
continuing that, that's,
And so this is for the Springfield water and sewer property?
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
some of it is, yeah.
yeah,
some
and
of
so
it
you
is
have
all
the
for-
agreement that it has to be accessible, is it that it has to be maintained, or do you actually have to? Like, do they have to leave it open to their emergency management, they just? have to
No,
maintain it?
It's locked.
Okay, and what do you guys think, is that maintained out there?
Well, the thing is if we have to go in there for a forest fire, we have to go in with a big machine and break the gates, because we don't have keys.
Right.
The firefighter does.
But
Oh, it does,
is the
yeah.
road being maintained to, that you could access if you needed?
some of those are Springfield signs.
Some of them on the Springfield, less on the state side?
Yes.
Okay. You wrong, thank you. Yes.
We've got the lower end of Carrick Road too, that's a dirt road and it's also gated
The lower end of Carrick, and where does that lead to?
It's down to
to the reservoir.
To the reservoir? Okay, right. And so, reservoir, I don't know. Yeah, okay. And is that, do you think that's in any decent condition?
It's in good condition. Yeah, people do down there.
And then there's the Otis Town Road. There's a paved section of Otis Town, then there's one section of Otis Town that's dirt, which actually follows, it comes all the way out. Over the hill.
You are, right, yeah, you got another swamp.
Yeah, well, Village Swampy's down up there with, but that's Otis. That's the
Okay.
Otis's name.
Yeah, well, that's Otis and the family road.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you guys sneakily read my first question and immediately went to making sure we notice which roads are most important to focus on. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
TJ makes a very good, explanation about the fire part of it. We used to run a grader and a dozer down years ago, but we have gotten to the point where we can't afford to do that. We don't have equipment to do that as much as we used to.
And I think that sounds like, yeah, how do you enforce the agreements to make sure the roads are maintained and, yeah, that's a great point.
Old Chester Road could go on there, there's power lines that go down.
Old Chester Road has power lines on there too.
House and water line.
Is it still a school bus route?
Not a school bus, the post office. goes down. And then there's a water line that runs down too.
Okay, so there's a water line on Old Chester too?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
I'm just curious, does anybody know about my little Cove Road to, Schoolhouse Road? It's supposed to be 11 miles long, and I've never been down it in the 50 years I've lived in town.
Probably not me, but maybe someone else knows about it.
A lot of these roads have like three names.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
You
don't know? Yeah.
Blandford. That, I think, is now what they are calling Otis Holland Road, from the looks up, what you got on this map.
Okay.
That's what it looks like from here.
Okay, so 11-mile long gravel road, so.
Now, I did have Springfield Water, when I was here, I had them help me do some work for that road. They actually trucked in some gravel. We ran a grader down and machine down. But it hasn't been touched for quite a long time because we haven't had the resources to build, you know.
So, you just spoke about that.
Otis Holland Road.
And I think,
And I actually have
was it
pictures of
during,
this.
was it during the COA meeting that we talked about one of the ideas looking to kind of team up with other towns for cost reduction measures? Or is that? Yeah, yeah, because I think that one, and I couldn't remember if it was here or Middlefield meeting, that the idea that if multiple people are having these issues and the costs and the equipment, that there may be some collaborative things that could be investigated. So, all right, so let's get into some more specific stuff, like have you encountered specific problems on your dirt roads, like potholes, washouts? Yeah, yeah, you have a few, and you know there might be marked on the map, right? So, and this is really part of what we want to make sure we do get, is if you have places where there are specific issues, and definitely tell us about general ones as well. But right now, if you have places like, you know, like the two culverts you mentioned, perfect example. Anywhere else you could think of where there's a huge washout, culverts have gone missing, there's overtopping, you're getting washboarding so terrible, you can't, you know, make progress down the road. Anything like that?
I think it's about to happen, because they put new culverts in front of the North Blandford Cemetery a couple of years ago. And those are plugged up now, but I'm sure the town's gonna clean them out, because without them being cleaned out, Square Road washes out. And, you know, it's, my concern is there a leaning toward preventative maintenance or secondary or tertiary
So
maintenance of the
perhaps
road?
some best practices as ideas for preparing so that you don't have, you know, a clog that's unnecessary.
I mean,
Yeah.
does the state program is pushing this, looking to the towns to develop primary preventive programs for their dirt roads? Or they don't care and they're the ones who dump money into fixing them up after there's a disaster on? Because you mentioned disaster planning, and which way is it leaning?
If
Toward
we
quick
will
planning with disaster or?
in advance, so that when the inevitable happens, less damage is done. So the idea is that we're preparing in advance to make sure the roads are able to tolerate to the best we reasonably can any events that might happen. So it is really preparing now, here for the future problems.
So you see it as the state getting behind towns in terms of getting funded for preventative work, putting culverts in and those things ahead of time. And a maintenance program for towns to prevent.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely the goal of this program, is that we are, municipal vulnerability preparedness. We should be prepared for those vulnerable moments. Like, that's really, you nailed it. That's the point of it. Yes. So, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, well, one problem, on the Huntington Road is, and I just took a picture of this afternoon, but, the water runs down the middle of the road. The actual middle of the road is
You're getting some channeling.
lower than the ditches. And the problem is the road's not crowned. And I think also, the traffic tends to, maybe it was crowned at one point, but the water tends to run down on the tire tracks.
And you put one little rut and it's amazing. You find a little rivulet and they'll just build on it. Yeah.
Well, I know by Hazel's house especially,
Look, the whole
just
road.
past it, it's just, you see the water's running down the middle of the road and it erodes and it gets rougher and rougher the more it rains.
He
Yeah.
brings up a very good point, but Hazel's, it was entrenched, period.
And
Because
this
it has
is,
high banks on
and this
either
is on
side.
Huntington?
Huntington
Okay,
has
so
high
it's,
banks on either
so
side.
it's already like bank on the side, so that no matter what, that water's getting channeled there
And
anyway.
that's what Christopher and I have been working on with Town of Russell. With, doing an IGA between the two towns about doing some major work on it. But it's not gonna happen overnight. We got a lot of tree removal to do, a lot of ditches to move, the sides of the road to remove and all that stuff just to get it started. Then you got material, you gotta, and everything else.
And it has a big cost, and actually regional partnerships is also another one, another thing that they really value in this program. And if you guys are getting together with how you might arrange that legally and planning for it, it would probably be a really, really great application. And we keep going to get a lot of funding for the actual construction of it. Yeah, they love to see places team up together. So, yeah.
Yeah, you go back, let's go back a couple steps to disasters, okay? We all, I know Brad and I've been through, you've been through bigger ones than I have. But even the small ones, we had almost 2 years ago, the water. There's a threshold that the towns, the county has to meet, okay? And that's through, MEMA, all right?
FEMA.
So it starts off with a small group of towns, just like a few years ago, we had all that rain. And then if we don't make the threshold, if we make a threshold through MEMA, then if FEMA steps in. Okay, now FEMA is the federal, right? So they got the money, right? So the problem is that if they believe that we did not make it, we get nothing.
Right, we have to go to our representatives on our state to try to get them to do something through the House.
Yeah, trying to get a
And
declaration.
trying to get a declaration,
If you're lucky.
it's really.
We had to.
So
Get everything on these three months, about 150.
like for instance,
Just like recently.
Chester,
Yeah.
Chester spent over $1 million that last year or something. And all the water, all the problems they had down there.
Yeah.
And where does the town get $1 million from?
That's the problem with the small towns, that's killing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And so it's one of the reasons why I'm really happy to see at least the regional coordinators in our region pushing this so hard to make sure this MVP program reduces the costs of small towns and that they, that they really.
You can get action grants, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yes, you guys, this is an action grant, even though there will be plans developed, but with this, like the library of nature-based designs, the concept designs, those are ready to go for the next round. Like next May, you could submit those with an application and be looking at funding for design and implementation for next year. And it really depends on how big the project is, whether you'd be ready in a year, but, definitely plan ahead, because I'd kill for those kind of match numbers. Yes, yes.
Another general problem is when you get a big snowstorm, like we had recently.
Yep, yep.
The roads are often, very narrow, and I know our road was only about 8 feet wide for a couple of weeks.
And where do you put the snow, even if you can plow it, I mean, that's a really good thing. Let's say, like, where do we put the
That's part of
snow?
the entrenchment problem.
Yeah, and that's it, just it pushes up the sediment, and it goes out with the plow, and then, yeah.
Not to mention when they're not frozen, no matter what plow you use, whether it be a grader or a truck or whatever it might be, you end up tearing up the roads to begin with.
And that's actually great about in terms of, you know, when those frozen ground conditions, it's not just the inconvenience of the mud season, it is without frozen ground conditions, even when it snows, your activities destroy the road. And that's an ongoing concern that isn't gonna get easier.
And that's why at some point that if it's a warm
Thank you so
winter,
much for being my.
we get a lot of snow, we don't plow the road, because that's the picture of us. Because
Because I know.
you open that up and you got the sun coming in, now you're gonna turn into a mud.
Yeah.
But it is a problem in that, you have to cross your fingers and hope you don't meet a car. Because right after the story, you meet a car and, there's no way. One has to back up.
They're not easy to do.
Sanded and it's slippery, maybe you can't back up and you're just plugging the road.
If there's any kind of grade going on, maybe you don't stop, and yeah, it is, it's a tricky situation. It's a really good point behind highlighting.
You were talking about problem spots, yeah, there's not to change the subject, but Chester Road, old Chester Road has Pollard on it. It plugs up, which causes Dave a lot of problems because it washes out the lower end of the road constantly. And he has to bring a grader up and fix it constantly, which if that culvert was running good and it would do correctly, he probably wouldn't have near the work that he has.
Yeah.
I think it's just the angle that they have the
Yes,
culvert going.
because it's straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going straight across the road this way, when the culvert should be going at an angle catching it.
It kind of, it makes the head pressure blow it out over the top.
Yeah, stream crossings is one of my favorite things. Something I really enjoy getting out there and being like, you see how it doesn't align, and the water's gonna get in here in a road, and I love. You can't tell water to do what it doesn't wanna do, and you have to
It's
work
hard to
with
make
it.
it run uphill.
Yep. I actually did have a site visit early in my career with a new development, dumping tons of sediment and water into a down, like, hillside farm, flooding out their fields, terrible, right? Terrible conditions. And went out to do the site inspection, and the guy who was the planning inspector was new and was like, folks, you see these catch basin grades? They're a full 2 inches above the asphalt grade. It's probably why nothing's going in them. He's like, oh, no. The contractor told me that it just runs right up over it and goes in it. Like, oh, so no, that's not, but yeah, you can't make it do those things. Yeah, but that's a great point. The stream alignment, but that Old Chester Road is a culvert that you would have to do a lot less work on the road if the culvert was improved. That's a good thing. Let me just.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, just so that's for me, because I'll send you, I don't know if you've done any culvert grants.
We started.
We looked at one this spring and then applies kind of the ones that do the work on a line.
With their goals.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
usually what they have on line is not what we actually have for culverts. They talk about the big ones, that are like 10 feet or whatever. And
I tried one of those grants recently.
yeah.
Actually, I did it twice. Cold water fishery. And I had a perfect spot. It looked great. Even the engineer said it looked great. You know what they told me? You don't meet all the criteria.
Yeah. So DER in particular, like, how everyone's underfunded and staffed, they have had very little money and then overly competitive, and because there was so many restrictions. Yeah, they were, apparently there was the bipartisan infrastructure that was bringing substantial funds, and they're actually expanding the department, increasing it, at least doubling the size of the whole department and more than doubling the funds. So maybe it'll get easier. Because I do know, in different roles, I have applied for them, so, yep, I get it. But
Real quick,
yeah.
Time check, we got
Yep.
about 15 minutes. before we
Perfect.
want to try to start some stuff.
Perfect. So we're gonna wrap it up in a few. I basically did put on here that other grant opportunities. making sure that you guys could have a list of if MVP is not your first fund, or if you need matching, having ideas for different types of places to go looking for money. So I'll make sure I include that, yes.
Has there taken place in the state a program to develop outlines or manuals for small towns to maintain their roads? That they give up, so that a town could have a template that says, okay, you start, you fill out the whole thing, and it becomes a guide for each successive highway super that comes on board, and they have some record to go with, and a plan to go with, and they know what to do first, second, and third each year, and so forth.
I think the competency of the records at a local level is difficult because improvements always, techniques always improve over time. But yes, DOT does actually do training. We looked into it based on your previous comments. There are trainings and manuals available for that. One of the issues is that they don't tend to make them available at an easy location for the Western region. So that is something that's on the list of ways to prioritize to get education out here, because if the material is available, it shouldn't be that hard to convince them to hold a meeting or two out here. So, but yes, based on your previous thoughts, we did find out it is available. Mass DOT has it, does classes and trainings. We just got to convince them to get out here, and that's going to be our focus.
So is it up to the town to petition them for that service, or is it up to this program to develop it as part of it, or how, you know, how does it get off the home plate and get the first base on this kind of an issue?
I guess the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Basically, George, not to interrupt.
No, please.
UMass, under the transportation guidelines, called Bay State Road, they actually have these programs available. But what they have to do is they have to have so many participants in each one of the programs.
Yeah.
So say, for instance, if Dave or I wanted to host one of these classes, we could ask them to come out and to host a class here. But we would have to be able to come up with so many participants to be able to pay for them to bring their instructors here for dirt roads, for greater classes, for those kind of things.
So if they would, so if you got 3 or 4 towns together, each town had 5 employees.
That's the thing, is that we can get with other towns, but it doesn't mean they're gonna send anybody.
Yes.
That's the
Well,
thing.
that's the question. I mean, if you've already done this program in 3 other towns, you're doing it 3 towns now, and I assume there'd be maybe 3 other towns after this. Who
I
knows?
do.
But at least you have 6 towns that are aware now of the need for improving the dirt roads.
Mhm.
The question is, what does UMass need to have enough push to come out here and run a program for the 6 towns that are
I think
committed to
that's
this?
to make sure that their costs are covered, and I would say that how that is coordinated, we can consider assisting the other towns, guiding that process, and potentially teaming it up for a grant to potentially pay for the instructors so that you don't have to reach a target level. But I would love to have you grab me afterwards to ask me more about it. I have about 4 to 5 minutes to do a little wrap up and see if anyone else has anything else I want to share, ask me before I start breaking down the equipment, so it gives you guys a second to mark anything on the map. Because the select board will be showing up shortly, and then you'll take us all out. So.
neat.
How dare they try to officially found business in their office? So does anyone, yes,
I just wanted to bring up the whole concept of traffic on roads.
yep,
There are some dead end roads that need to have signage earlier. There's a sign that says no through traffic, and I can guarantee there are people who think that that doesn't mean you can only turn around here, because you get these huge delivery trucks that still on the arrow map think that that you can go, and it's like a big tractor trailer thing, and then also just the traffic that comes in, ATVs, dirt bikes, and someone just sort of, oh, this is a dirt road, we can do what we want, and I
Yeah.
think that's not taxpayers, those are other damaging things that happen. And so I just think that's
We heard
something
a
we have to
similar,
consider too.
yeah, similar story in Middlefield. So yes, I think that you can certainly say your experience is validated by everyone else's. And the delivery trucks is really interesting, the signage idea, that marking it more clearly, that can reduce traffic, turnaround damage. I think those are really good strategies. I like them a lot.
And then also with the water in the middle of the road, sometimes also on the edges of the roads, there's washouts. So eventually if you have a small wheelbase, you're trying to keep one tire on and then there, potholes and rocks sticking up. It really gets challenging and it's damaging to the car.
Right, right.
So it is something to think about.
Now, I'm wondering, I have no idea, something else I heard is that, GPS directing people, is repeatedly hearing people are using roads that should not be a throughway as a throughway, causing more damage.
And I think the select board can send like to Arrow Map saying, please take this off your GPS.
That's what I'm gonna say, update maps and put a question mark, because that maybe there's, can I investigate again?
If it's not maintained, then you need to get that GPS out of it.
Exactly, and even if it says like, hazardous road, so that people know, you should probably take that other direction. Yes, yes.
My GPS shows, Julius Hall Road is a through road. I see a lot of people.
Mine as well.
When I get to the end of my driveway, I set my GPS, it tells me to take the right, that's gonna take me right toward the reservoir.
And another thing is that a lot of the GPS coordinates are old. All right, now I recently was using a trucker's GPS and it showed that there was an exit on the turnpike here in Blandford. And I stopped the guy on Chester Road and I said, are you making a delivery and he says, well, no, I'm looking for the entrance to the turnpike.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, well, where are you going? He said, well, I'm headed west. And I said, well, God help you, because there's no way you're gonna go west, even if you go to the end of this road, because you'll never make the turn to get on Route 20 to go west. And there's nothing, I don't know how you can correct that.
Well, I think updating maps and if, for instance, we have GIS data that rates them based on road cover, why can't the GPS systems also do that and say, it's true, but if it's provided to them as free data, that like Mass GIS.
That means you have to get somebody to do it.
Yeah. But you haven't seen me when I get like really determined about something, and I have other more dramatic words I could use to describe me when I get like that, but I can be very
Dead end roads.
yes.
So if you have a dead end road and you have a major tree around major middle and major cross road, you have to wait for the power company because they decided we can't punch it because it's not, something they want to do unless you want to.
Yeah, no.
So now they're stuck. They have no way in or out. So some of these roads that they're not maintained on the other ends actually have a way out even if they were minimally maintained.
If there could be something.
Yeah. So that would be something else. Some of them.
If you have any specific ideas of locations, would you mind just writing a few of them on the map? Thank you, because that would help, because we're gonna get kicked out very shortly. Yes.
I just want to mention, part of and I used to complain about that, the roads not being closed, because we had people coming from one end of Nye Brook down the other, and we had delivery trucks that were just, I couldn't believe it, that old rickety bridge that was half rotted out. We had delivery trucks trying to get over it, they'd get out, they'd peer down. I can't tell you how many people got stuck up there until they put the Jersey barriers out. And I said to them, why don't you do something? They don't close the roads because it means less money for the town. So until the town officially closes the road and updates that information with the state, we will continue to have GPS and traffic on dead end roads.
I wonder if there's a way to get them to rate it as hazardous. Yeah, map says, if you have the maps rating it as hazardous as opposed to saying it's closed. So maybe
Yeah.
that's it. No, but I like that because if I didn't know that, I might have gone down the whole path of investigating these different.
Impassable might be a better word than.
Impassable, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's true.
True.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Full conditions,
Yeah.
yes.
Getting back to what Brad was saying, Julius Hall Road is, goes out to South Otis Road. And if there's, that was an emergency way out until the Springfield Water Department put a gate across the road. It's a public way that they have blocked off. The road is not in great shape. They maintain it to a certain degree, but you can get through there with a car or a truck.
Yeah.
But they have a, like I say, it's not posted no trespassing, it's a public way. They have a gate across that road.
Don't you dare go across that gate though.
Yep, yep. All right, I can see our lovely select board members are arriving. And if you guys wouldn't mind, I'm able to see the quick picture to prove that I was here.
There you go.
I promise I will not make you all be published in the newspaper without consent. I promise. This is what we can.
I duplicated your reference as well.
Okay, great.
I did blue stickers for today, the yellow ones with the.
Oh, okay,
Actually
nice.
Had more comments today. And we got a sign-in sheet, so we're good.
If you guys have any questions, emails, if you want to share any more information, it's right here. Please grab some cheese and drinks. And I'm gonna start packing stuff up so the select board can get moving. Contact info also.
Very
available.
good. Very, very good. Thank you, Miss.
Thanks,
Erica.
everyone.
Guys.
Very much.
It's better turnout than I thought it would be for 5:30 meeting.